On Capitol Hill today, Christopher Krebs, who was the country's top cybersecurity official on Election Day, told a Senate panel this presidential election was the most secure in U.S. history. The former director of the Homeland Security Department's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency was fired by President Trump in November after he made that statement. Here's a part of his testimony with the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee.
We contributed to the cross-agency effort to protect the 2020 election by surging coordination and collaboration with our partners across the national security space. In conclusion, because of these and other efforts, on November 12, 2020, government and industry representatives from the election security community issued a joint statement reflecting a consensus perspective that the 2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history. As you move out from Election Day, there will be tabulators that may have internet connections to transmit the vote from the precinct to the county level to the state. Again, security controls in place, and as long as you have the paper, can't hack paper,
right.
You can run that process.
For more, I want to bring in CBS News technology reporter Dan Patterson. Hi, Dan. Great to see you. So Chris Krebs was one of the top election cybersecurity experts in the government. But as we heard, much of his testimony today was focused on paper ballots. Why was that?
Chris Krebs, like you said, has incredible credibility on both sides of the aisle. And that's because he reinforced something we can all kind of get behind, which is math and paper. So I spoke with Krebs in August as he was and his team was planning election security, and he told me the same thing that he said today, which is you can't hack paper. Look, at the end of the day, if you believe in math and you believe in counting, then you can look at the paper record. You can roll back and you can recount as many times as you want, but there is no systemic problem with being able to count ballots. And that's what we've done here. He made sure that election systems in each state, and I know that his office was communicating with election workers in each state, were prepared to generate paper ballots, a paper record, analog, not digital, analog records. And if you, again, believe in math, as Krebs said today, and you believe in counting, then you really can't hack paper, and you can count the election as many times as you want, and the results will remain the same.
And yet, Krebs, was fired by the president for calling this election one of the most secure ever. And he battled with several Republican Congress members this morning. What was his criticism of their attacks on the election?
He said that the attacks on the election, look, it is fair, and we should always want to make sure that we have a secure election. But he called the attacks that have happened today pretty specious, and he even implied that the senators who continued to attack were fairly disingenuous. He said that you guys need to stop doing this and that you're hurting America. In fact, he talked about some of the experiences that what he called the sacred duty of election workers, those who make sure that our elections are secure, that those people, when they are attacked, when they're issued death threats, or when they are in any way threatened, that this is fundamentally harming America, no matter what side of the aisle you are on. And again, Krebs is a Republican. He said, look, you cannot attack the mechanics of democracy without also attacking America. And so he said, you're hurting this country by raising these specious claims without any evidence.
And what about the questions that were raised today about voting machines and whether some of them were possibly tampered with? What was his answer to those questions?
It was great, actually, especially as a tech person. He said that, look, some of these conspiracies, and he dug into these because he wanted to take the allegations seriously. And you can look at this yourself, especially if you have any programming background or sophistication with computers, and I think a lot of our audience does. He said, look, they tried to spin something that was just an error message in a log to being all voting, or 68, 67% of voting machines are failing. Not at all the same thing. Look, if you're familiar with C#, the programming language that a lot of these machines use, you are also familiar with the error messages that a log will generate. A log is just a log. It's an instance. It's a long piece of paper, a long record of every instance that has happened. And C#, an old programming language, will generate a lot of errors. Not errors in the voting or the record, it's errors in the programming. They misunderstood programming, or at least tried to spin bad programming in his language for some conspiracy that these machines were failing, which is challenging.
And Dan, looking back in time to much of the concern ahead of the 2020 election, it was about Russian and foreign interference. Did Krebs's agency find that to be the case?
Yeah, actually, this is really fascinating, Tanya. What Krebs found is that, look, all of us were preparing for foreign actors to hack this election. And we have seen that foreign actors are attacking our critical infrastructure. They try to attack our voting machines. And as we've seen very recently, they attack our own government. But what he found is that our biggest weakness was ourselves. It was disinformation generated domestically with an intent to confuse the electorate. And that's incredibly important, that although we were all kind of looking in one place, the real, air quotes, hack of this election came with the widespread use of disinformation targeting Americans.
All right, Dan Patterson, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to see you.